And welcome everyone to Rock M Radio. This is the beginning of a brand new episode of Dive Cuts. We're here, season 6, episode 32. Of course, we're here to talk about your Missouri Tigers. I am your host, Sam Snelling. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm the guy on the left. Please take a moment to hit the like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because that helps us out. The guy on the other side, my compatriot, he's here every other week these days, Matthew J. Harris, from his basement in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
Matt, how are you?
I'm still failing all the Room Raider all the Room Raider reviewers at this point, probably, but I'm doing well. Trying to, I think rest a little bit and make sense of what this roster looks like, but otherwise, just dandy. Can't really complain.
So we are recording this. It is Monday evening, May 1st. It is going to be May. You can see the clock behind Matt, what time it is. It's about 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And last night, surprise, surprise, Dennis Gates sends out the bat signal. Everybody got really excited because there was a chance it could be somebody that everybody was really excited about. Turns out, and not that you shouldn't be excited about what happened, I guess.
He is risen up there.
But Campbell transfer forward post player Jesus Carralero. Excuse me. We've been working on his name, trying to get his name right. Carralero. From Malaga, Spain, spent a year at Link Academy in Branson, Missouri, so he's familiar with Missouri.
Jeez.
And he spent 4 years at Campbell, and a wrist injury this past season, and only played the first 5 games, and then but he looked pretty good in those 5 games. Made 5 out of 10 3-pointers. True shooting percentage was rock solid. And then he shut it down with a wrist injury. So this is an interesting addition. Definitely, I think everybody knows that Dennis Gates has been looking for interior players. And he is an interior player, but he brings a lot of that sort of like Euro big style. He's a good passer, good, sort of playmaker, facilitator. From that sort of interior position. So he's got some intrigue to him.
He does. I'm convinced that the staff, after, seeing Mr. Shedrick go off the board, has decided that they're just going to try and spackle together the first player they want from different pieces. And that we'll get to how that informs roster construction, deconstruction, lack thereof later on, but I think if
you're making the Moneyball joke, if you don't follow Matt on Twitter, his Twitter handle is right there beneath his name. Go follow him on Twitter. You can see his link to the Moneyball discussion. But yeah, this is the Moneyball joke.
They're spackling it together. They're putting it together. But on his own, I think Carralero is a guy who I think, is probably the guy he's the offensive big. He's the guy who, if you were to look at his tape, look at his numbers and his profile, he's the guy that, Missouri will put in, if it needs kind of that connective piece that it uses at the elbow and at the top of the key. He's a guy who can make those passing reads. I haven't gotten to full games. I've managed to be a sicko and somehow track down 5 full games of him. I'll watch those later, but in cut-ups, you can see that
where'd you find those?
YouTube, baby. YouTube.
Yeah.
A deep well. Deep well. Some people stumble into misinformation. I stumble into Big South basketball from November 2022. Nice. But there are 5 full games out there. I'll watch those and get a better sense for how he plays. But in short little bursts, you can see that he can make good passing reads, makes good passing reads on the backside of help defenders, particularly low help defenders. He's really good sort of reading, 45 angle cuts and when to hit guys there. Will play in pick and pops. I would say he's more of a finesse big, even when he posts up, footwork, counters, wants a lot of drop steps, wants to use kind of a rhythm dribble. But he's, a big that I could see Dennis picking after Dennis has watched a lot of EuroLeague. He fits that sort of mode. Athletically, again, he's more athletic than I am. It's all relative, but compared to what he's going to see in the SEC, there may be a little bit left to be desired there. Even on defense, he's more of a positional big, playing with verticality. He's not going to destroy you with a first or second jump, but he's good at understanding, I think, at least in the clips I was able to see, of positional rebounding. His rebound rates are solid regardless of, what level you play at. They're about 17 to 20%. So he can be a connective piece. He can do some things offensively. And I think, back to my main point, you put him with other pieces on this roster, he can help solve your rebounding problem. He's not going to fix all of it, but he can help solve a portion of it. So if you're looking for a guy, who I think, sitting here in May and we haven't seen this team play, he strikes me as a rotational pickup. But I think you have to understand what that role potentially could be. We'll have to see it on the floor. He hasn't played in a year, but after 36 hours of looking at it and looking at the numbers and whatever tape exists, that's sort of the best assessment I have out of the shoot as to what he offers this team.
Yeah, I don't necessarily get the impression that this is a guy that they're going to count on, 30 minutes of action a night. They are still recruiting other bigs. It was reported by Jonathan Rothstein that Jimmy Bell is going to make it to campus at some point. He is another big, so kind of completing the second half of your Moneyball joke. But it does look like, and it has looked for much of the spring, that, even with the pursuit of Caden Shedrick, like Dennis Gates decided that what they did last season and the way that they were able to play and make teams sort of conform to them is how he wanted to kind of continue to play. And you could see that through the pursuit of a lot of guards. And the type of bigs that he was pursuing, were guys that were heavily skilled, which is why we didn't really see them go after somebody like Jamarian Sharp. And then once they missed on Shedrick, it's like, okay, now we're getting one heavily skilled, guy from Campbell, and then the other guy is sort of like the mauler, and so he is essentially, which and I don't really want to get too into like the 24 recruits with, but it is one of those things that I was surprised at how much they seem to be pursuing, Peyton Marshall.
Which I watched him a little bit this weekend. Set aside his frame, and there's some power, but he has some good footwork. He has good hands, and when I've seen him move, he's got pretty good feet. So I think you've got to set aside the girth there, and you watch him play. There's some things I think he can do pretty well and fit that sort of mode from a skill perspective. He's not completely, about dislodging guys by just putting a shoulder.
Right. And I think, my point was like getting guys who are maybe more adept, like a Jordan Butler, who is better playing away from the rim. A guy is comfortable, shooting from distance. And I think like you're getting some of that with, Carralero, who didn't really shoot well his first 3 seasons. But you expect a level of skill from some of those bigs. He didn't attempt a whole lot.
And like the question is, that is he even going to be asked to do that? Is he even going to be, within this role and within this offense?
Well, I think it's right. I think it's going to be like similar to like a Diarra, where Muhammad was a guy who you're not looking for him to take threes, but you want him to be able to knock one down if the opportunity presents itself. So it's like if that's where the offense, the shot that gets generated from the offense, then you want somebody in that position who can take and make that shot.
Yeah.
And I think Carralero is a guy who, will be able to fill that role. But I don't think either of us think this is a guy who's going to come in and play a ton of minutes. He's going to be play. I would say like you're already looking at, and some of this is all dependent on whether or not Kobe Brown comes back. But you have Noah Carter, who has already proven to be a valuable interior player.
You can go 18 to 28 in that range.
What's that?
18 to 28 minutes a range.
Yeah.
There's space.
I think if you're getting, 12 to 15 minutes from this guy, like that's probably topping out. Like I just think like the way that Mizzou has been able to play last year, the way that they built the current roster right now, it looks like they want to play at a faster pace. They want to play with more guards. And I think that they're willing to sacrifice some interior size in order to make teams sort of face them on their turf.
Yeah. I think it's also sort of a function of where the market is right now for talent. Pretty much the top 30 bigs in the portal, depending on wherever you go. If you try and account for differences in composite ratings, and if you even want to try and toss like Torvik's measure of how guys played last season in with Maya's 2024 forecast, there's about 30 names that all sort of sit in the same pool. I don't rank them. I kind of put them in loose tiers because, there's no good way to sort of, work between those systems. But about 20 to 25 of those guys are gone. And those that are left are probably 30 to 40 days into their recruitment. I think fans at times think, we missed on this guy. There's 1,600 other names in the portal. Mizzou and other high majors are looking at really about 150 to 200 names, maybe the top into that group. And if you then break that down by position, there's about 40 guys per position. If you're starting to get to the point where 30 of those are off the board, Missouri, could go out and try and get one starter. But, the guys that are left that you would project as a starter, some of them are really young guys. Like Zach Clements didn't play at all at Kansas. He was on an official visit to Providence this weekend. I love Zach Clements. He's a really hyper-skilled dude, but he's 6'9", 210, and not a true 5. Right. I love Keba Jai, who is at Penn State. I love that dude's tape. Love his ceiling, but, he may be following Micah Shrewsbury to Notre Dame. He's also taking some other visits. Do you want to try and get into that race, late? Two guys I had in a piece this weekend, Russell Chewa, a guy who is a little like Jimmy Bell, more of a starter level guy, committed to Georgia today. Bryant Silabang, who is, a brawnier version, a scaled down version of, what Chewa might be or what Jimmy Bell might be, he's supposedly committing tonight. So you start to really get into that level where that one guy who can eat your 28 minutes just isn't there, just isn't available to you. And so do you try and come in late on guys and say, I know you watched us spend a month recruiting 2 or 3 other dudes, but you're the one, or
right.
Go and try and make that composite? Do you try and say to Jimmy, Bell, like, I know that you were recruited over by West Virginia. I know they went and got Jesse Edwards and your minutes are gone, but we'd love for you to come and do what you do here for us. If you're, Carralero and you're coming off a year where you were injured and some coach is going to say, look, we're going to feed you 12 to 15 minutes a night at the high major level. Come play for us in the SEC. You look at the comparative offers. If it's like an A10 program or a CAA program, is it intriguing to come to Missouri? So I think what they've done is they've realized the point to go all in on a starter level big past 2 weeks ago. It's now about, can you find the things that you want for your system, and can you use the roster flexibility you have to get those skills in. Right. So people have talked about what are they going to do when they're pivoting. This is what that pivot looks like, is trying to get disparate pieces to have a better whole. So we'll see if it works, but I think that's sort of the approach that they've employed now as we enter the home stretch of the portal season.
And there's always rumors of guys that are potentially going into the portal. There's
every school has
right. Yeah. There's also if you're waiting around possibly for guys that, are in the NBA draft or getting, opinions on the NBA and they decide to exit, which, is to some degree is kind of what happened with, Isaiah Mosley last year. And, he opted not to stay in the draft and there weren't many options left, but Missouri was around and had room and allowed him to kind of come back home. So there's definitely like things that they could do to, if they really wanted to wait, or you take what's available and make that work. And I think overall, when you look at what they've done this spring, you have to really like the transfer class overall. Like you have to really like the fact you're adding Tamar Bates and you're adding, Caleb Grill and John, Tanji, who is at this point like a forgotten guy and a guy that like
pixie guy in the transfer portal.
Like we were thrilled when he committed. It was like I couldn't believe, like right when he went into the portal, I was like, oh man, like that'd be a good player to get. I really like the way he plays, and sure enough, so it's like Missouri's had a really productive spring. They've just sort of had these like notable late misses. Shedrick obviously being, the biggest clear miss. But I think if you finish off and you're like, you're adding, Carralero as like a bid player and Jimmy Bell, who is a rugged defender. He's a rebounder. He's not the greatest finisher at the rim, but like Dennis Gates and CY have both been really good at getting guys to be better at that. Maybe you have, like that Moneyball combination, duo who can really sort of, push you over the hump a little bit with really what amounts to a really nice, deep collection of guards.
Yeah, I think that's been the hardest thing to say here is Missouri's job this spring, I think, was distinctly different. I think everyone kind of looks at what Muss does and just a complete roster flip. And I don't think that's what Missouri needed to engage in. They had ball handling settled, with 2 returners and a freshman. They had, by all accounts, Isaiah Mosley is, looking like he's going to be back. So if he's fully available, you've got one of the best mid-major creators / scorers there. You just need to get him to play more. So now you're not having to go into the portal to pursue a high-volume scorer. You just need your high-volume scorer to play more. You've got, a really, really good connective big in Noah Carter. You have a foundation of 5 or 6 guys that really could fill in a rotation. So now it's, what are the 2 things we're missing? We're missing, maybe another alpha scorer. They're pursuing that, line right now with Matt Cleveland. But if they don't get it, you've still got Mosley there. And they also wanted, I think, some more depth, to, play the pressing style they want to play, but also just have some optionality, and they needed to replace shooting. They got all that with the guards that they brought in. And I do get, the frustration and the angst and the anxiety about the bigs. Because it's been 2 years where, they put a lot of time and a lot of investment, in guys who haven't come here. I think it's doubly frustrating because you look at Dennis's track record along with CY at recruiting bigs to Florida State and you go, what's going on? That's totally reasonable to feel that way. But I think what they're doing now, at least in a theoretical way, might mitigate that. But I don't think they faced a wholesale gut job of this roster. They had some things they had to go find. I think they've done that. If they get Matt Cleveland, I don't know if any backcourts in the SEC that are going to have as much depth and flexibility as this one. And it's already pretty good. Matt Cleveland is a guy who I think is sort of like that crowning achievement for this backcourt. And, you're not going to need Carralero and, Bell to score. You're going to have guards that can go do that. That's going to be taken care of.
Well, and that's another sort of, point that I think, we've talked about, the best offseason additions for Missouri are very likely guys that were on the roster last year. And that's if you get Kobe Brown to return and you get Isaiah Mosley to return. I don't think you could see those guys better. Right. Like, I mean, the number of options that you have in the portal, like Kobe Brown is better than Matt Cleveland is. Like Kobe Brown is better than Caden Shedrick is. Kobe Brown is a difference-making level player, and if you add Kobe Brown and what he's able to do, and you bring back Isaiah Mosley, a guy who can score from the outside, and now you're adding all these other pieces. And one of the things I was thinking about the other day, the number of guys that they have that have started on top 25 level teams,
it's bonkers.
Like you're talking about Nick Honor, who did that last year. Granted, it was last year. Isaiah Mosley started last year. Tamar Bates started last year. Caleb Grill started last year on top 25 level teams. Obviously Kobe Brown, Noah Carter, and now you're talking about potentially adding like a former, 5-star kid with a huge ceiling, and he's one of the only guys that would be in the playing rotation should he, commit to Missouri. That really hasn't been like a starter level player on a top 25 level team, but he has been on a on like a power conference team. So like I think like there's a lot going on with this roster. There's a lot to be excited about, and like I just think about like how deep and how deep the backcourt is, but also like how different all of those players are.
Yeah.
And I think like that's one of the things that's probably the most exciting about what they've done.
What if you look just at the backcourt, those three guys, Tanji, Grill, and Bates, have played in 191 games against Ken Palm top 100 teams. Just last year, they played in 65. Like I remember a couple of years ago when, Konzo brought in his transfers from mid-majors. Those guys over their entire careers were at 62. Just the level of experience those guys have, the caliber that they've seen every night, you can't undersell that. You absolutely can't undersell. And, Caleb Grill was playing 30 minutes a night last year. John Tanji, moved into a starting role in probably the 6th or 7th best league in the country, and did a really, really nice job for them at Colorado State. Tamar Bates has to put it together. I don't think anyone can, say that, that's plug and play, but he's, played, 17 to 22 minutes a night in the Big Ten for 2 years.
Yeah. And he's been inconsistent, but he's also, flashed really well against high level competition. So, like you want the consistency, but a lot of that is sort of true of Cleveland. I think Cleveland's maybe a little bit more consistent, but he was on a far worse team. And I think like all of these things, when you're sort of putting them together, they're making what amounts to like a really potentially exciting team. But what you've essentially done is you stacked all this talent at the guard level, really kind of like 1 through 4, and then you're just sort of filling in guys who can sort of help facilitate, some of that stuff at the 5 spot.
Yeah, it really is. Can you mix and match? And I think jumping ahead, once they finish the roster, I could see them doing what they did in non-con this year, which is we need 7 or 8 games just to really tinker with things, really sort through some roster combos. It will make people upset because you want me to have a boring home slate for an early non-con, but if you're sorting through that,
but maybe if you're dropping Houston Christian and you're taking on like so like a MAC school versus I think there's ways, and like this is one thing that I think like Eric Musselman's always done really well is
find that more
to play like a easy non-conference schedule, but they're good mid-majors instead of like Missouri had some awful opponents last year, and I think that you can level that up.
He finds top 4 teams in mid-major leagues.
Yeah,
Missouri was finding bottom 4 teams last year. That was the difference. But to your point, there's I think when people sit down and they look at this roster, up and down, I looked at it the other day, the average, 247 composite rating for this roster may wind up around 0.91. A couple of years ago, when Zoe finished up, it was at 0.872. Like, you've gone from guys in the top, average guy around 220 in the composite to now around 120, 110 to 120. Like, I think it took churning 17 guys to the roster in 2 years, but you've gotten to that level that we've always talked about, which is maybe Missouri's never going to, live in that range where it's getting, 5 top 30 guys, but it's going to have depth from like 75 to 120 in the composite. That's where the composite ratings are now if you account for transfer re-ratings of guys. But the talent level's being upgraded. There's some depth in the backcourt. Realistically, can they land Jimmy Bell to come in and be a guy that's going to do what we talked about, which is lean on other fives, rebound, try and get some putbacks, and do they close the deal with Matt Cleveland? If you get those two in, there's enough ingredients, in the pantry to make a really, really good team out of this. But they've got to do some work. They still have to close, so we'll see what they do.
Yeah. So Bell basically told John Rothstein that he's looking at visiting Missouri and Mississippi State. He does seem very much like a Mississippi State big to me. Like,
yes, he
Mississippi
does.
State.
Let's evolve.
Like, for whatever reason, that school always has like big lumbering centers. I totally was probably more of the exception, but still like a traditional, like, back to the basket, big man who wants to, sort of, back you in and shoot a little jump hook over the right shoulder.
Yeah.
But so if right now the way things look, there is some sort of familiarity for Bell with Missouri. He started his career at SLU, and after SLU he went to Moberly.
Go Greyhounds!
Hey, yeah, the Greyhounds. I'm a Mac Cardinals, so we would whip them Greyhounds, at least back when I was there. Moberly's had some really fantastic years.
Yeah.
And isn't that where like Mitch Richmond went and all that kind of stuff? Like,
Yeah.
They've had some, like, they've had pros.
Yeah.
I know like Three Rivers is Latrell Sprewell.
You know all the local kids, all the haunts from all the old guys.
Well, yeah, I mean anybody who doesn't know, like, I played at Mineral Area College, and like you go to all these places, you see the banners and Coach Best down in Poplar Bluff at Three Rivers. My brother actually played at Mineral Area as well, and he played against Latrell Sprewell. So there's some facts for you. I was going to actually look up, where is Jimmy Bell from? Isn't he from the East Coast?
He's from Saginaw, Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, he's from.
So, you want to? I mean, we've sort of already discussed what type of player he is. He did start some games for West Virginia. West Virginia did. They were sort of living on the bubble out of the year. Metrics really loved them. I think a lot of that was because you play close to the Big 12. You don't necessarily have to win a lot of games. But he's not a guy who's going to really blow you away with his stats. But there are some things that he does well, and you can sort of see what Missouri wants.
What he does well, I'm looking at it right now. It's put back. That's his, out of all of the touches he gets, his most consistent last year was a putback. If he plays on the post, he's going to want to play over his left shoulder. Hook shot's his preferred one, but he'll drop, step away, and counter, and try and kind of bowl through guys a little bit. And then you sort of like get into like picking up loose balls, 50-50 balls and putting them back. He can play for dump offs in the corner on drives. He's not going to be a guy that you give the ball to, every trip down and say, let's play through you. There's not a lot of, indication that he's a guy that passes out of the post and hits cutters or spot up guys. He does not play in, at least everything I saw, on some longer cut ups. Not a guy that you're really going to have facilitate, but he can rebound. He is good defending post ups against legitimate bigs. And he's a guy who's going to, capitalize on the opportunities that come his way. If you can, every so often hit him on a punch play, that's very kind of you, and you should do it. But he's not going to be a guy that you need to put into a focal point to run action for. And there's something to be said for that. Something to be said for those guys. They have immense value if they're deployed the right way and in the right lineups. My sense is that, West Virginia, Bob Huggins is not messing around. He's got, Trey Mitchell still there. They went out and they got Jesse Edwards. Minutes were hard to come by. So if you can offer him a role and offer him, maybe some spot starts on nights, if you need to see Oscar Sheboy, you need to see a big that's, a little bit more traditional in sort of the way they operate, you've got that flexibility in Jimmy Bell. So, he is what he is. He knows who he is, and I think there's, sort of immense value in that if you can get those types of guys in and they buy into what you want to use them for.
I think if he gave Missouri what he gave West Virginia, which is 46.1% of the minutes, 105 offensive rating, the
rebound rates are
60.5% of possessions, which is great because that's not very many. Offensive rebound rate, he was 11th at 15.8%. Defensive rebound rate, 18.9%. Decent block rate. So one thing that did sort of stand out to me with both him and Carralero was they both turned the ball over a lot.
That's the linchpin for both these guys. Now, Carralero, I could see because he's a facilitating big, so in the reads and the passes he's trying to throw, like they're going to be dead ball turnovers sometimes because they're being thrown to a cutter and it will go out of bounds. It's not, a live ball turnover where he's trying to dribble and it's picked off of him. It's a bullet pass that goes out of bounds. Jimmy, it's a little bit different. You can, if you dig and you have smaller guards to get up under him, you can force turnovers there. But again, if you're not having him, be a guy that you're driving things through on post-ups and he's just having to, make catches and go up, maybe you mitigate some of that. I worry more about turnovers with Carralero just because if you're going to ask him to facilitate and put the ball down, run handoffs, make reads, there's just more that's going to happen creatively and you're going to maybe flow actions through him a little bit. Maybe I worry more about turnovers there than I do with Jimmy Bell. If that's wonky, but that's where my brain sort of goes right there.
We've got a pen in Bell as a guy who I think could end up on the roster. So I would pay attention to when he hits campus. Hopefully we find out roughly when that happens. But it is going to be interesting. So by the end of the week, it is May 1st, and Matthew Cleveland had sort of stated that he was hoping to have his sort of decision wrapped up by the 5th. At this point, I kind of talked about it today. If you haven't checked out like our scholarship math post, both Matts helped me put that together. It's a daunting task. There's a lot of information. But the latest intel on Cleveland basically is it looks like this is maybe kind of a two-team race. We feel like Missouri is maybe a little ahead. But I'm always a little worried, Matt, about that Miami NIL money that very famously offered Nigel Pack $400,000. And I don't know exactly. Nobody really knows like what sort of Missouri situation is. I would be surprised if they were, willing to go that high on a guy like Cleveland. If Miami goes there, it might be tough to get him to Columbia. But the relationship that he has with CY and now Coach Gates seems to be strong enough that Missouri might be able to pull this off.
Yeah, I think the big deal is he got out of the plans last week without committing, unlike Tyron Lawrence, who seems like he's going to try and take one of the spots. And I think that's been sort of the linchpin with Auburn is it one guard or two guards? And if it's two guards, and if it is one guard, who pledges first? It sounds like Vanderbilt wing Tyron Lawrence, who averaged about 13 points per game, solid player for Stack last year, might be the guy that, grabs that slot. Now, if Auburn's looking for two, then I think it gets interesting because I think there's obviously room for Matt Cleveland there. The timeline that he gave, that I saw reported by Travis Brand a couple weeks ago was like somewhere after May 5, because Florida, Florida State, like a lot of universities, is near the end of its semester. It's going to wrap down. So it was somewhere after May 5. He told reporters last week from Auburn sites that he's still looking at 2 to 3 weeks. Everything's fluid in the portal. Maybe that changes, but this is still a situation where, we'll see how it transpires. But I think Missouri is in as good a position as it can be right now. Miami, like you said, has NIL money. They need a guy to replace Jordan Miller down there. They have a spot for him. Auburn, I think,
and Wong is staying, or reportedly staying in the draft, which would indicate that they've got some production to replace as well.
Yeah, there's some production down there that I think is a little more open, and there's the proven, at least publicly, they've got NIL money to splash around down there. So I would think if you're looking for the marriage of minutes and finances, Miami would be attractive. Missouri has that relationship in place, that's been there for a long, long time. The question to me is, what does Matt Cleveland, conceive of himself, doing in a rotation? I think if he comes to Missouri, there's not his sort of, he will no longer, I think, be the prime mover in an offense. Florida State really asked him to do a lot. He got a lot of touches. Wasn't a ball hog, wasn't, stifling the offense, but they put a lot of touches in his hands. And, it's different, I think, coming into a rotation like this one where if Kobe Brown is back, if Isaiah Mosley is back, those are two dudes that are going to, could legitimately on any roster, be the alpha. Now you've got 3 of them. So how do you feel comfortable about sort of that arrangement? I don't know how Matt Cleveland feels about it, but I think that's a distinct contrast to what's at Miami, where it's come here and be a focal point.
Yeah.
Missouri, it's come here and, try and fit into this sort of conglomeration of pieces that we have.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see what he values, where relationships fit. He has a relationship too with Auburn. They've recruited him out of high school. They were finalists for him there. So it'll just be interesting and this is the one thing I think sometimes people get reductive, where it's either all about money and it doesn't matter. I think it does matter for Matt Cleveland, because Matt Cleveland was a guy who was forecasted as a potential one-and-done guy. Didn't shoot well his freshman year at all. Last year, he and Florida State were pegged for a bounce-back year. To a certain degree, he shot the ball better, but it was on really low volume, and Florida State was awful. So now you're a junior, and, it's go time now.
Right.
For you. And it's sort of the same situation we saw with Caleb Love, where do you go try and find the place that's going to let you do the same thing, but maybe the supporting cast is a little better so you can showcase the NBA?
Maybe not better, but more conducive to working better with your own skill set.
Yeah. And that may be
Does that matter?
Yeah, that may be what Miami can offer him. There's still some talent down there, but it's not going to require him to forfeit some touches. And, Jim Larinaga is a very good basketball coach and an adaptable coach. I think that's the one thing that, Larinaga has played fast, he's played slow, he's played NBA style, he's played 5 out. Jim can flex a little bit. So does that appeal to you to go down there and do that? Or do you trust, that relationship with CY and Dennis, that they're going to put you in position to maximize this year? Again, I don't know, what's going on in Matt's mind about that, but I do think that's something to keep in consideration here. And as I think you wrote with Caleb, guys will say they want a certain set of things in a program or a situation, and they'll commit somewhere and it doesn't, join with that.
Right.
I think people, thought the same thing with, Caden Shedrick. Why is he going to Texas? And then you got to really look, and you could see how it works. Guys are going to commit to where ultimately they want to go and where their gut feels like they're going to go. But if we're being
they got the right vibes, man. It's all about vibes.
Vikings, baby. But so it'll be fascinating what Cleveland does and what it sort of reveals about what he's valuing as he tries to reboot. But I think Missouri's, deep in the mix here. We'll see if they can close it. We'll absolutely see if they can close it.
Are you going to make a prediction on it?
No. I stay out of
the
prediction game. But saying they got to have places for all these guys to go. Where are they going to stash all these dudes? Where are they going to put them all?
Well, so that's why we published the scholarship math post today. If you are watching or listening to this and have not read that, I recommend going read it. It is a far more detailed breakdown than you're going to get here. But we were able to figure out. Yeah, it requires a lot of basically laying things out and where we are, because there are a lot of guys who are basically saying they're going to be at Missouri next year, and then a couple guys who could be at Missouri next year. So we are still waiting on decisions or official word from Isaiah Mosley, Kobe Brown, Sean East, Mabor Majak, Jackson Francois has not said anything. Francois, other preferred walk-ons. I don't really think we're all that concerned about what their decision is going to be. But it does come down to, we know Noah Carter, Nick Honor, Aiden Shaw are for sure back. We're pretty sure Sean East is coming back. There's been no information one way or the other. No public announcement, we'll say. Whereas everybody else has kind of said publicly that they're going back. And then coming in, you've got the three freshmen. You've got Kurt Lewis. You've got Tamar Bass, Caleb Grill, John Tachi, and now Jesus Carralero.
8 guys.
If you add up all of these guys together, including the walk-ons, that we're at 18 dudes. That's a lot, because you can only have 15 available to play in a game, and really there's only 200 minutes to play for 5 positions, so it's where are all those minutes going to come down to? And then you're also talking about adding Jimmy Bell and Matthew Cleveland. It's a lot of players.
Yeah, the math will add up here, because it has to, and it always does, and the numbers will get to where they need to get to. It's just the permutations. Sometimes people ask me, what about this? What about this? And my response is just going to start being, it's whatever your heart really kind of desires. I think there's a lot of different ways it could go to get to what I'm going to say are 15. Because you're going to have your 13 scholarship guys and 2 that you'll probably carry on NIL. Who's going to be your 15? And, right now, if you were to look at the returners that we know about of East, Honor, Shaw, and Carter, I'm going to put East in that group. That's 4. Plus the 8 coming back, you're at 12. And now you've got, so that's 3 spots. You got 12 out of the 15. And now you have Mosley, Brown, Cleveland, and Bell. That's 4 for 3, basically. Or if you want to say Mosley is looking like he's going to be back, it's 3 for 2. How does it work? Somebody's not going to have a chair.
Right.
I think the easiest way, and this is purely speculative, the cleanest way this happens is Kobe gets good feedback from, the NBA. He has great workouts. A team tells him, hey, you're really in that 30 to 45 range. Come on in, you're going to get a guaranteed deal or a two-way. Kobe stays in 3 for 3. Like, that's the easiest, kind of cleanest way I think it happens. Is Kobe stays in, 3 other guys filter in, and then you just have a bunch of walk-ons and some really good practice players.
So I do have, I believe Kobe had a sort of event at some car dealership in Columbia. It was like signing autographs and stuff. And PowerMizzou.com's Gabe Yarman went down there and talked to Kobe. And I did find it interesting. Gabe tweeted out some of these things, and I did find it interesting. Kobe's language has shifted a bit on originally we were thinking like he was looking for a first round grade or he was coming back, and now it looks like he's looking for something guaranteed, which if you're like, I think there are a lot of NBA clubs that would give him a guaranteed deal. It's guaranteed deal that is basically like the top 45 picks now, or pretty much top 50 picks, like all get guaranteed deals now.
Yeah.
Even though only the first round is technically guaranteed, like all those guys, when we're going to get guaranteed deals.
And the thing that's going to happen too, I think, in the new CBA is there's going to be more G League spot rosters coming in now. I think over the next couple of years, like the two-way deals get a little bit more lucrative for you. The Exhibit 10 deals get a little bit more lucrative. Like an Exhibit 10 deal right now, which is basically you play X amount of time in the or in the G League, and then like you get set number of minutes that you play at your home club. It's not quite like a two-way deal. It's a little bit different in terms of like the CBA structure, but those are worth about $500K now. So like if those are going to begin to increase, or if you're getting a guaranteed deal now, for second round picks, which if you looked at last year's second round, a lot of guys who were projected lottery picks that fell were scooped up early in the second and given guaranteed deals that were a little less than like what you would get for rookies in like the middle of the lottery, but they still got good deals. So that's always been my thing is, was it a hard and fast thing if you wanted the first round, pick because it comes with, extra sort of protections to it? Or would an agent sit down and really walk him through everything and say, here's the new CBA language that's coming in. Here's how front offices are really behaving. If you can get from, 55 to 40, you put yourself in a position to have, a lucrative payday between 500 or, $1 million annually. Mizzou, even if it anteed up for NIL, that's still pretty robust to bring a guy back at that level. So as we've said, it's great if he wants to come back, we'll support him if he wants to come back, but the math is, pretty enticing, if you can get to that middle of the first round. And I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't, I don't think anybody would, and I don't think it would be moving the goalposts at all. I think it would just be, this is what the process is for. You get to have these conversations and you get to have an agent, do the inquiries for you. So it makes sense if the sands have shifted a little bit.
And there's also a lot of situations where guys will be, they'll go into the draft knowing that they have a team that they will not fall past.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of those conversations that happen in the background where, teams are saying, look, like, we really like you. You're not going to fall past this. We'll make sure this happens. And so I think he'll probably have the next 2 to 3 weeks to really kind of figure all that out, and we'll have hopefully a decision, some clarity.
Yeah. The nice thing is you're going to be able to get combine, G League, elite camps. There's going to be opportunities for him to get out and showcase what he does. Well, the thing that is always struck me about Kobe is, and I tweeted it the day that he, had to make his decision or the deadline, which is, the two things that are going to face him going through this process is the shooting uptick real? That's a big jump. No ceilings, which I think does great work. their writer, Maxwell Bombach went through and basically detailed saying it's a really mixed bag for guys with, Kobe's sort of shooting trajectory and profile. But what really works in his favor is he's multidimensional and he can do a lot of different things. But what he's going to have to do is get into the league and really flesh out what he does well and stick. Coming back to Columbia carries as much downside risk. Now, he'd be compensated in NIL. That's compensating him for a year for that risk he's taking. But what if he comes back and the shooting numbers don't look as good? What if he comes back and through no fault of his own, this new set of guys that have come in, we like the shooting numbers. They look good right now. What if those guys fall flat and the assist numbers look a little different? What if the passes out aren't as productive? Or if the rim finishing changes? So I think for Kobe, it's less, risky to go and say, I'll take that second round deal because I'm being compensated for what I've already accomplished. I could, boost my stock, but realistically, the history of those guys,
like one of the oldest guys in the draft.
Right. And eventually you want to go start earning. That's the other thing here is if you're 23, 24, the guys who are going at the top of the lottery are 18 years, 2 months, 18 years, 6 months. They got 5.5 years on you in that earning window. Time is as much the commodity as anything else. So if he stays in, it's going to be totally, reasonable for him to do it. And that would clear up the roster jam they have right now. They'd have 3 for 3 if they want.
Potentially.
Cleanest way this happens. We'll see if it does, but it's the cleanest way for it to happen.
Well, so we're a little over time. Like I said, we're always going to have a goal of trying to come in about 45 minutes on these. So I know both Matt and I like to talk basketball. Sometimes we go over. So we're going to wrap this up. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, just we're going to keep monitoring portal season. I thought it was done. Then it sucked us right back in. I thought we were getting to the end of it.
Hey, we still got 10 days left of the portal being open.
I've watched 60 live game or 60 full games of dudes. We need to stop at some point. I've watched too many full basketball games of guys. Watched way too much ACC basketball. And I don't even write about the ACC. And I've watched entirely too much. I probably watched 30 full ACC.
That's a hell of your own making, sir. Make sure you follow this guy on Twitter. He has all the tweets these days. At Matt J Harris 85. You can follow me at Sam T Snelling. Make sure you are subscribed to this. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a subscribe button down below. If you're listening in your car or just on your headphones through a regular podcast, make sure you're subscribed to the Apple Podcasts or the Google Play Store. We're on Spotify. Also, leave us reviews and stuff if you're liking things. If you want to know if you have any questions, we can check that and answer them. And then probably once the roster gets wrapped up, we'll do a live show. We'll do a live Q&A, and we'll just see how long-winded we can all be together as a group. So that's it. I think Before the Box Score is coming back next week. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and have a good night.